How long are we going to go around telling kids that drugs are bad, okay, without explaining really what the heck's going on here, without saying more than drugs will give you cancer, or drugs will mess up your stomach, or drugs will kill you, give you a heart attack. Why will these drugs give you a heart attack? What's really going on here? And what are you really doing to your nervous system when you take these drugs? I see so many people, especially young women and young men, with anxiety disorders. And they originate not just from PTSD, not just from social awkwardness or any number of things, that genetic factors, even epigenetic factors. These things have a very delicate balance that must be maintained. Your autonomic nervous system has two halves, two separate functions to it. And ideally, you should be at the center of those two functioning systems when you are at rest. And that homeostasis, that balance between the two, is what gives you your natural sense of well-being. So, we've proven that taking drugs like alcohol, like cocaine, like methamphetamine, like opiates, all affect your central nervous system. That means both halves of your autonomic nervous system. How do they affect it? They basically are a button that press to change where your nervous system lies, what half it's on. Is it in the sympathetic half of the nervous system, which is the place where you experience fear and anxiety, the fight or flight part of the nervous system? Or do the drugs push you into the parasympathetic nervous system? Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that most all drugs are being used because they put you in the parasympathetic nervous system, because the parasympathetic nervous system is where you are relaxed. It's where you're feeling comfortable. It's where you're happy. It's where you feel loved and feel like talking to people and creating things. So, it's basically a happiness side of your nervous system. And if you can't get there by just living your own life, then you can go out and use one of these substances to put you there artificially. And that's the key word there, artificially. There's so many ways to put yourself into the relaxed state without these drugs, to relax after a hard day without these drugs. It just takes a little bit of effort and focus. But society on this planet has been conditioned for thousands of years to bypass that and go for the quick fix and use substances as an artificial means to get to the place where they can relax, to get to the place where they can have fun. And what happens after they've done that for a month, or a year, or 5? until they get something called anhedonia. It means you no longer are able to get into the parasympathetic nervous system anymore, the place where you feel love, where you feel comfortable around other people, the place where you don't feel in fear all the time. You can't get there anymore because you have forced yourself there so many times with this substance that without it, you're never going to make it there until you do a whole lot of work to rebalance the two halves of your autonomic nervous system. So let's take a look at this. There are a lot of drugs out there that can be done. But there are basically two classes, in my opinion, that determine their value to society. There's the class that closes the third eye, closes sensitivities, introduces toxins to the body that must be forced out. The kind that, in my point of view, they close the third eye. That means they close your ability to empathize or sympathize with your fellow man, and they cut off your ability to be reasonable. Most all of these drugs change your behavior to the point of where you're either half asleep, or on the other spectrum, you're talking to spirits that aren't there, utterly convinced you're having a conversation. So if these drugs have those side effects, don't you gotta figure that there's gonna be repercussions when you come off? But we can't just be told that, yeah, don't do drugs, you'll get hooked. Don't do drugs, you're going to damage your liver. You're going to lose your friends. You're going to lose your house. No. It's so much bigger than that. And those are big, mighty, big things to lose. Correct? You're going to lose your girlfriend. You're going to lose your wife. No, it's worse than that. Because by the time you've spent 6 months just drinking beer every day, or just doing coke on the weekends, or doing methamphetamine once a month for a year, you have done damage to your central nervous system that is nearly irreparable. You cannot easily repair the damage that cocaine does to your nervous system. That stuff, literally, for like 5 minutes, puts you in the parasympathetic state of bliss, and then for the next 12 hours slams you so hard to the sympathetic that you can't sleep, you can't do anything. Same for methamphetamine, but there are people out there that don't like to sleep. It's all down to basically the proclivities of where their homeostasis of their autonomic nervous system lies, whether they like doing downers more, in other words, or like doing uppers. But either one has lasting and profound repercussions on the health of your nervous system. And your nervous system is where every single disease and breakdown in the human body and mind originates. If you got a sore back, it originates from your nervous system. No, it's not your nervous system that feels it. No, your nervous system is connected to every organ of your body, especially your parasympathetic. And when you're in the parasympathetic, you heal these organs, like when you sleep at night. That's when the most healing of your body on a regular basis happens. And if you aren't sleeping at night, you're not healing. And you're not learning, because that's when a lot of learning goes on in your brain. If you're having poor quality sleep because your consciousness has been altered, even temporarily, the night that you go to sleep drunk is the night that you've lost the ability to learn anything about what you did the day before. At least not as efficiently as you are supposed to. The thing of it is that if you want to spend all your life walking around in a state of anxiety or a state of nervousness because you like to drink or you like to do drugs and you're okay with those consequences, should I be fine with that? Hell to the no. Because the fact is, the vacillations of your character that result from your abuse of your own body and mind through these substances warp your character to the point where it's difficult to deal with you anymore. And then you wonder why people start to shy away as your nervous system deteriorates and your reactionary nature increases, or your isolatory nature increases, or both. And then so you go out and drink more, or do drugs more. And actually, isolation builds up tissue along the spine of the brain that makes you want to engage in addictive behavior. Because your brain literally craves social activity. And when it doesn't get it, it finds a substitute. And I like you as you are or were or should be without all that garbage. Everyone likes you without that garbage. And I want to walk around and be around people that I like and that I want to like. That make me want to like them just because they're genuine. And they don't act like they're afraid of me unless they're drunk. Wait, that didn't come out right. They don't act like they're afraid of me when they're sober, and yet they want to be my best friend when they're drunk. The biggest impact that people with dysfunctional nervous systems has on our society is as simple as this. When you're in a stressful situation, when you are in a state of anxiety, your IQ literally drops by 12 points. Yes, 12 points. Now, how many of us are out there walking around in a state of ongoing anxiety? Cortisol which is released when we encounter stress, stays in the body for 24 hours after just one release. And the effects of cortisol, if you do not know, you should research it because they are highly damaging. It ages you. It dehydrates you. It makes your brain dumber. And let me ask you, when was the last time you went 24 hours on this planet without encountering a stressful situation? Without encountering a situation that raised your temperature about 2 to 3 degrees to the point where you almost have to take your shirt off in public. So if you haven't gone without 24 hours without stress, and I haven't, and everyone in this room, and everyone in the house has not had 24 hours without stress, then they are basically enjoying a constant pumping of cortisol into their body, which is constantly making them stupider. And now we understand the state of politics in the world today. I have long theorized, without any proof whatsoever, that the real cause of the dysfunction in society and class and economics on this planet originates from one thing, and that is addiction. For a long time it was mostly alcohol, and that's bad enough, but now we've got a whirlwind. It's not a pretty picture, folks. So I am literally engaging in a campaign. The book that I'm writing, Parasympathesia, is specifically about the nervous system and the consequences of embarking on damaging it when it's literally still growing. And your frontal cerebral cortex is still growing. Your decision-making part of your brain is still forming until the age of 25 years old. And it's trying to grow with an impaired nervous system because everyone started drinking at 16 or 17 or 18 or even waiting till the legal age, 21. Just 4 years of drinking will put you in a place where you're going to spend at least 2 years getting back to the childlike state of innocence that you were in before you started doing all this shit. Everyone knows it's not a solution. Everyone knows that drugs are bad. Okay, great. You're preaching to the choir, but really, tell me, why? Why should I not do it? Because the minute you do, you are embarking in a winding spiral staircase downhill. And each drink you take, each drug you do, takes another step away from that perfect balance that you had between the two halves of your nervous system and the perfect pristine state of your vagus nerve, which is connected to that, and the perfect pristine state of your stomach before it was traumatized by substances that you yourself introduced to it. Now, this is not going to protect us from the trauma of life, but it is going to better equip us to face it if we do not have to have the handicap of a dysfunctional nervous system. It's our coping mechanism. If you understand polyvagal theory, then you understand that the ability to switch from being in a state of anxiety back to being in a state of calm is one of the most important factors in having a happy life. Moreover, one of the most important factors in being loved by others and making others happy. A little something called neuroception. All these things are examined thoroughly in my Parasympathesia page on Facebook. And I'm working on several books right now. One of them is called Fighting to Relax: How to Win the War of Nerves in the Modern World. And it goes into great detail about not just the source of this problem of the nervous system dysfunction in the world today, but moreover, what are the solutions? What are solutions that you can do without buying anything, without doing anything but following suggestions on my Facebook page, if that's all you want to do. You don't have to buy my book. I'm trying to deliver this message to everybody because I want to raise my kids on this planet. But it's not ready. Not for my kids. I'm not doing that to them. I'm sure there are some of you out